ahead of Caicedo and Peo Bilbao. Then we raced to Camilla Tello Solano, which will live long in the memory.
Some of these punches, some of these fast finishes to the line. Just remind you of the composition of the breakaway as we look at Peter Sagan on our screen. Many riders now with about 50 miles to go, just taking the opportunity to pop to the side of the road to take Ben O'Connor. They're the riders who are only on. Everybody else has basically got 2 riders. So 4 from AG2R, 2 from Androni, 2 from Astana, 2 from Bahrain and McLaren. And what there needs to happen, therefore, at the back part of this race, there's plenty of fire left here, and I think gaps can be shut down very, very quickly indeed. I'm just intrigued to see how they're going to take things up. As you see Fabro there, he's got his extra jacket on. Stunning.
Serpentine masterpiece, you might call it. Usurped as Europe's highest mountain pass by the Col de Iseran in 1937, so it was over 100 years as the highest mountain pass in. And many different stories to create as the 2 riders from the BORA hansgrohe squad, that's Conrad and Micah, also finding themselves off the back here, and riders at 6 and 7. Now finally we're getting
Kelderman in a world of hurt.
Well, Kelderman cannot follow this. Hindley has to stay with Theo Geoghegan-Hart, so you could have a changing of the guard in Team Sunweb here. Remember, Hindley is 3rd overall, almost 3 minutes back from Joao Almeida, who's crawling all over the bike in his efforts to get on terms here. Could be used when they've reached the top of the hill, so still just a smidge under 5.9 kilometres indeed for
and focus. It's 3 degrees over the top.
Incredibly cold. It's hard to take in, isn't it, when you sit in.
Indeed. As we just see Sagan there, Bodnar on his wheel, Benedetti just in front. No real problems. It's expected, isn't it? They'll just form that gruppetto. It still hurts. You certainly can't let go too much because of the time cuts. And as we've described on numerous occasions, it's not an easy day being in the autobus, that is for sure.
He took the stage 10 success riding solo. Might have hoped that he could produce something in the sprint finishes. And agonizing.
When you have the amount of teams we've got here, 133 individual riders are all going to have a different viewpoint. Some will be more than happy to reduce it. Others happy, focused. That's been part of their plan would be to have looked at the whole course. Demar, we know in particular, was happy and prepared to ride that long stage, but others felt that it was just a little bit too much and a step too far.
To the UCI, to the organisers of this event, to all his colleagues in bike racing, all fans and supporters of bicycle racing indeed, because Matteo Spreafico found positive for an anabolic agent called enobosarm or Ostarine, which I haven't heard about, but basically it's an anabolic agent that's quite good at helping you reduce your fat levels while not reducing muscle and all that kind of thing. Anyway, so Matteo Spreafico of the Pro Continental level, Vinny Sabu KTM squad, found positive. Disappointing. We've had lots of positives in this event, not least the racing.
Just reading some interesting interviews from Vincenzo Nibali after the race yesterday. He said he couldn't do any more, and he said there is a generational shift. He kind of conceded that, right. And he said he fought as hard as he could, but just couldn't match.
Defeats Arnaud Démare in that points competition. He likes the joker. He's not joking right now. No smiles for the Slovakian 30-year-old star with Cesare Benedetti just in front of him, who's done superb work to try and put this one back together again. But Matteo Fabro is one of the smaller riders in this entire bike race. Great all-round road racer, but just not going to bring anything like the same. Made it all the way to Milan, and as you've said, and I think it does bear repeating, RCS deserves some congratulation for providing this great entertainment and providing employment for Ilio Kaisa. It was so difficult. He's done such massive work indeed for Ducoini Quickstep, for Joao Almeida on the front of the peloton day after day after day. Picked up that little medical complaint, the details of which we're not exactly sure, but I think we can probably imagine what it is. And he has, well, he's going to make it through today, but it has been a real struggle to get to the Looks like it's coming with a good run now.
Well, he certainly started hot. It just depends if he can maintain that. But given the fact that he's got
Miles Scosson, and Miles Scosson doesn't ride for Israel Startup Nation, yeah. Well, speaking of the Joker. It is Peter Sagan who accepts the plaudits of the crowd in Milan today. Well, a little bit further out in the outskirts of Milan. Cernesco sui Naviglio. Once upon a time, it was the rich and famous gathered here. The rich and famous in the world of cycling have returned to this leafy and popular suburb of Milan. I do not get the signals from his roll off the ramp that Peter Sagan's really going to go for this one.
No, I think he's just going to. I think he's certainly not going to take any risks. He's just rolling around these opening couple of courses, but clearly in good form. As we just look at Bodnar.
Now Bodnar through to complete, and we didn't get a time on, but it looks like he's gone second, just over 20 seconds down on the best time set by Miles Scottson. So that is a replay. And Maciej Bodnar is really going for it today. He might have been holding a little bit of something back in the previous two time trials. Not the case today. Over 51, almost 51.5 kilometers per hour for the big Polish powerhouse. Intermediate point as Peter Sagan works his way towards the kite, the final kilometre of the Giro d'Italia. I think promised a little bit more than it delivered, but we should, of course, remember that wonderful solo. So Peter Sagan winds his way through to the conclusion of Giro d'Italia. Second in the points classification, not quite what he would have hoped for. Second on 4 occasions, an extraordinary statistic really, but he would at least be somewhat relieved by the fact that he did get that stage 10 success. Second, 8th, second, first and second, his top 10 finishes. So
it's consistent, isn't
decent
it?
effort in the points classification, but you know, winning is what it's all about. And Arnaud Démare, it's sort of skewed and weighted towards the riders that do actually secure the wins, so that's made the difference there. And Démare's had a handy advantage for quite some time. Still putting out approaching, well, around about the 300 watts mark, which is cafe ride stuff for him.
Yeah, I don't
joking.
think. Yeah, I don't think he's going to be potential. As we see, the aforementioned Peter Sagan coming into the last few hundred metres of his Giro d'Italia. But that, that stage win of his, though, for me, it's almost worth two stage wins. I think he's going to be disappointed he didn't take home the Maglia Ciclamino, but the manner of that victory, his only victory the whole season. It was vintage Sagan, wasn't it? So, okay, it might not have saved a relatively disappointing season for him, but it was a piece of Sagan magic that would live long in the memory, I think.
And I think, it might frustrate some aficionados of the particular sprint school that it was just more memorable than your average sprint win, wasn't it? And he's won so many sprint stages. I think he's certainly going to remember it longer than many others. 12th fastest at the moment. There are plenty of riders behind him, I tell you. Peter Sagan is safely home and hosed. Job done. And his 2020 season is complete. So congratulations to Peter Sagan and to the entire BORA hansgrohe squad, who have suffered a little bit in general classification in the last couple of days, but have an opportunity and indeed look a likely top 8 finish for Patrick Conrad today. He's much later in the order. As we run you through the...
Clearly one of the strongest in that breakaway, chipped off and was looking wonderful on the climbs, but didn't quite have it to match the GC men at the end. But Ballerini, I think this race for certain riders has let us kind of unlock a race. Very, very happy indeed. I would say that it's a big success for the American team.
So BORA hansgrohe also had a pretty successful event, albeit for Rafa Majka. It's gone backwards a little bit in recent days, and one wonders just how motivated he's going to be for this final time trial. He slipped out of the top 10 in recent days. Now, almost 20 minutes back, 19 minutes and 17 seconds in arrears. It's the most extraordinary Giro d'Italia as we send Majka off the ramp and towards the conclusion of this Giro, that there are yawning chasms behind the first few riders. The first two separated by mere hundredths of a second, and beyond that it's just disintegration.
Yeah, the aggregated time, of course, when you look at the times, it does look as if many of the riders from positions 3 down to 15 have almost...
Campenarts is currently second on the timesheets. Patrick Conrad. We're into the GC runners now. The GC hitters, Patrick Conrad, 8th overall in this bike race. He has won that little battle, little struggle for supremacy between himself and Rafa Majka. Both of those riders protected and given their own opportunity. They've looked after each other as best they can all day of action. Only something extraordinary ahead would allow him to move up and onto the podium, but he does have a little bit of a battle to hang on to that 4th position. So I'm quite sure that Peo Bilbao of the Bahrain McLaren squad will be pushing hard.
Yeah, he does need to press hard because he's got Almeida only 20. If Almeida gets 24 seconds on him, he'll move